Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Get any last minute shopping in?
Yep.
Yes. Nice.
No, it's fine. Oh well, I'll just.
I'm excited to see so
Lean
many
over.
still in
That's
costume on a Sunday. That's awesome. I apologize for myself not being in costume, but I have to go to an after party, the Matsuri Mayhem, and they want me to dress up, and I have to be there until about 2 in the morning in costume. So I was like, maybe I should pace myself, you know, not get dressed at 10 in the morning. So that's the reason. Any of you coming to the Matsuri Mayhem event? Yes? Ah, okay, some of you, okay. Well, it's at the church tonight, and I think it is 18 and over, so if you guys want to come, please join us. I'll be there, and lots of cosplayers, apparently, too. So it should be fun. I've never been before, so this is, like, exciting. Whoa! What does that mean?
Somebody did that on
Oh, my! Wow. Okay, alright. It reminds me of the time where I went to Dubai and there was also a party going on at a club, and as soon as we said we were going to that club, someone was like, be prepared to go to hell. And I was like, whoa, what does that mean? Like, now I'm scared. But then it turns out that the club was like kind of in a basement, and the way that it was set up, it did sort of have a little bit underworld feel to it. So they were being literal, but I was like, I don't know if I want to go to hell. So yeah, I guess doors are closed, so we can start. Again, thank you all so much for being here. And I'm Yaya, and I have been cosplaying for a long time, and I've been coming to A Kon for a long time. And generally, I receive a lot of questions, so that's why I suggested for A Kon to schedule a Q&A, so that you guys have this chance in this next hour to ask me whatever questions you would like about my cosplay experiences, and also talk about your cosplay experiences, if you have any craftsmanship related questions or any sociological questions about cosplay. Now's the time. So I anticipate lots of hands. I would like lots of participation from you, okay? We're not going to just sit here and look at me for an hour. That's not going to happen. So any brave souls? Anybody already have a question in mind? Wow, nice, very nice. Okay, well I see lots of hands on this section, and you in the very back, you seem very, very ready and excited. So what's your question?
Okay, this is actually for her.
Please stand up. Stand up. Thank you.
What's the best way to untangle a wig in your opinion?
The best way to untangle a wig, in my opinion. Great question. You're very lucky that these days there are many different ways to untangle wigs. And have you ever been to a beauty supply shop, Sally's Beauty Supply or any other beauty supply shops? They have a few things that you can use to detangle a wig. One is a wig conditioner, and it's for synthetic fibers, and it actually is like, it's a conditioner, like a spray-on conditioner. But they also have what is called an oil sheen, and it comes in a spray bottle, and it literally it's like it helps sort of keep your wig a little smoother, so it's literally like an oil sheen. And you can also use silicone spray, and that you can get at Home Depot. So you have to, obviously tarp off wherever you're going to spray it, and spray the silicone over the wig, and then you can comb it out, and that is what's going to help with the tangling.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Lots of hands I saw. Yes, ma'am.
I just, one question. When you start on a project or a cosplay costume, what is the first thing, or what piece of the costume do you start off first?
Good question. What is the first piece on the costume I start when I start a new costume? It depends. Sometimes I start with the piece that I think is the most difficult, that I'm the most unsure of. Because I feel like if I can tackle that, then I can tackle the rest of the costume. Sometimes if I'm really like, if I'm not in the mood to make something, but I only have like a certain time frame, and so I have to work on a costume, I start with something that comes very naturally to me, that is very easy to me, because by making it, it gets me in the mood to create, and it sort of gets the creative juices flowing. So it really depends on the project, but no matter what costume I start with, the way I approach each costume is I break down the costume in several small projects. So it's not so daunting. It's not like, I have to make this big suit of armor. So I'm like, the shoulder pad, that's a project. You know, the shin, that's a project. And then the next project I move on to is maybe the bodysuit underneath. And so by doing that, you sort of give yourself a little more, I guess you're just able to plan out your costume a little better, and you can keep your productivity going. Because if you get tired of doing one task, you can put that aside and you can go to something else and sort of keep making stuff. So I hope that helps. Question from this side of the room? Okay. Yes, I see you in the blonde hair. You're Dragon Ball Z, right? Dragon Ball Z.
Yes. Obviously, you have a beautiful portfolio of costumes, so I was wondering if you've ever encountered a costume that you found too difficult to complete or that you had to put aside for a time.
I certainly have put costumes on hold, but it's never because it was too difficult. It's more like, you know, the timing wasn't right. I never try to look at a costume like, I absolutely failed, I cannot complete this is above my skill level. Like, it's more about what is the right material, you know, what is the right technique. It's that sort of discovery process. And if sometimes a costume gets put on hold because I lose interest in it, or, you know, it's like something else comes up that is more prevalent because of whatever collaboration or whatever, you know, I have to make a costume for whatever convention for whatever reason. But I don't ever, like, I try to tell people not to feel like they have to limit themselves to what costumes they can make. Because no matter what, there's always a way to translate a design into a costume. Because there's 1,000 ways to make the same costume. So you just have to find the way that is best for you. So never think it's too difficult. Yes, Mario.
Where do you store all your 250 plus costumes, and what do you put in?
Okay, how do I store my costumes? Good question. I have two rooms, and I buy those, like, my closets are all full anyway, and then I buy those racks, those closet racks basically that you can put together and you can zip up. And so I hang my costumes on those, and so they line 2 rooms. And I also have costumes in my basement that are basically retired, and I store all my costumes in garment bags. So those live downstairs because I can't bring myself to sell them or give them away or throw them away. So I just keep them, they just take up space. And I also have a storage unit, I mean for different things, not just for my costumes, but I store like wings and things like that there. But yes, there's always an issue with storage. It's like, especially because I don't get rid of anything. Yes, ma'am. Okay, her question is about Lulu and how I made the belts. Well, I made Lulu back in 2001. So a very, very long time ago, and when I really didn't know quite how to make costumes. So I definitely had some issues with it, and but what I realized, or the technique that I sort of experimented with and came up with, is instead of making a full belt skirt that is very heavy and very cumbersome, I just made the front panel, and I made it so that it can snap around my waist via those nylon straps. And so it basically snaps on as a front panel, and then I have Velcro going all the way down on both sides, and then I just Velcro the skirt over it. So that's how it holds it together. And you know, back in 2001, I didn't know you could rivet things. So I bought a lot of belts from thrift stores, so they're real leather belts, but I was like, I can't sew through it, what do I do? So I tried duct taping, I tried hot glue, didn't work, and then eventually I found goop. That was when I discovered goop. And it's a really strong adhesive that has to dry over 24 hours, but then I basically gooped all the belts together. And nowadays, I would just rivet them together and it would be like done. So, but it's like, yeah, I actually kind of want to remake Lulu because it's one of the few costumes I did sell when I was really poor and needed to pay rent. And so I had to actually sell a few of my costumes. And I've always really missed Lulu, and so I think that's actually something I would like to remake. So, come over on this side a little bit again. Yes, the Titan.
When you pose for photos, like what do you not do? Like what should you not do?
Okay, when I pose for photos, when you should pose for photos, what should you not do? Honestly, when it comes to posing, this is really silly, but think pageant. And I'm talking about guys and girls. It's about pageant. Like, think about how the people pose when they go to pageants, because it's all about flattering, and that's what it is. It's like I think like a lot of even celebrities, they sort of learn how to pose, sort of like pageant girls. Like exactly how to twist their bodies and how to move a certain way, and it's just practice in the mirror and think about the fact that even if you're doing something unnatural to you, it looks different when it's in a photo. So it's like if you really like arch your back, even if to you it looks really unnatural, it will actually look better and more flattering in photos for you. Practice in front of the mirror, honestly, it's just that's where you're gonna learn the most. I actually sometimes do a whole panel on posing, and it's a big topic, but it's like don't slouch, don't turn all the way to the side where you can't see your costume, turn like 3/4, and think about like dynamic poses. Look at what people are doing on DeviantArt, look at great photos and sort of analyze them and learn that way. Any other hands? Next question. Oh my gosh. I see, sir, you in the back-ish. Yes.
Yes, how much do you usually spend on building your costumes?
How much do I spend on my costumes? Well, that has certainly changed a lot over the years. When I started and I was just, a little teenager and just kind of didn't have any money, didn't have even a good sewing machine. I had like a $40 used sewing machine that I bought from a friend. It was very difficult to make costumes. I had to save up, and I would buy Baroque satin and costume satin, just like, and it's very cheap materials. It's all about being on the budget. And these days, because costuming has become part of my business, become part of my job, then of course it makes more sense for me to invest more money into it. So these days I don't really skimp on materials. I still try to get a bargain. I still try to haggle whenever I can, but use coupons. But it's kind of like time is more valuable to me. So if I sometimes buy things in buy backups so that I don't have to go back out again to buy the things, because it's more important for me to have things in my house than having to stop a project at 11 at night because the crafting store is closed. So I spend hundreds of dollars on my costumes, if not thousands. But it's not to say that to make a great costume you have to spend a lot of money. There are a lot of people who are very budget conscious, who are very innovative, who think outside the box and use all kinds of very affordable materials to make things. So I think it's just that the research is more important than how much money you spend on something. Yes, sir.
What inspired you to cosplay?
What inspired me to cosplay, what inspired all of you to cosplay? That's exactly what inspired me to cosplay. I mean, when I started, it was not like I could get into it back in 99, 2000 and say, I'm gonna become, you know, I'm gonna make cosplay my career now. Like, that was completely impossible. You know, you couldn't even really, like, to even have costume design as a profession was pretty much out of the realm of possibilities, because, you know, a lot of art schools didn't even have fashion programs or even costume design programs. So it's like, this was literally just a, you know, I grew up with manga and anime, and was like looking for a way to express my fandom. And until cosplay, I drew the characters, I did, you know, a lot of fan art, and when I saw people cosplaying, it was like, okay, this is what I want to do. There was like this burning obsession, you know, something like clicked, almost like a light bulb went off, and was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And so it's just been a path of just expressing my fanness and being creative, and you know, and I always tell people it's about the journey, it's not about the end goal. And I never thought that my life would take this turn, but somehow it has. And you know, I gotta hold on to what it is that got me into this in the first place, which is the fanness. I have no idea if that makes sense. Sorry. Yes, sir.
Of all the costumes and characters you created, which one is your favorite? Who do you like to cosplay the most?
That's quite the question. I get it often, and I always say I don't have one favorite, because for me it's all about the variety. Like, that's why I do this. That's why I have close to 300 costumes these days, is because I'm constantly looking for another look, another theme, another character, another just whatever, just another fantasy. And so to choose a favorite and be like, this is the character that I absolutely love dressing up as, I only want to dress up as that character, it's completely unfathomable to me. Because then why would I be doing this? Why wouldn't I just make this one costume and wear it over and over again? And it's because I would be incredibly bored. Incredibly, unbelievably bored. I would not be able to enjoy it. Each convention, and I go to, this is June, and I've already been to 17 conventions this year. And so if you think about it, I wear 3 costumes per convention, 17 conventions, you know, do I want to wear the same costumes, you know, however many times? So no, it's all about like looking at my wardrobe and being like, what do I want to wear today? So it's like any girl looking at her wardrobe and being like, I have nothing to wear. You know, that's the same with me. I'm like, I've worn this costume 3 times. I don't want to wear it again. I want to make something new. And because it's like, that's what I love. It's the making of things. And that's what pushes me to continue making stuff and to find a new character to dress up as. Obviously, there are certain costumes that are more comfortable than others. And so I have to sort of consider things like my favorite costumes are not always the ones I can wear all the time because they're painful or difficult to transport or something. But they're all my babies. It's like, how do you choose which one is your favorite child? Lots of hands. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Let's see. Who had their hand up first? I think I saw something on this side. Yes, ma'am. You with the wristband? You had a wristband and your glasses on? Yes. How do you make props, like horns and headdresses? There are different ways. There are different ways. I feel like if you want to get into prop making, it's about lots of research online, and there are a lot of tutorials out there. You can make horns out of wood, you can make them out of foam, you can make them out of resin, you can make them out of, you know, Warbler or Wonderflex or craft foam, or just so many different ways. And I think it's about finding the way that works for you, thinking about what you need it for. Does it need to be sturdy, and does it need to be unbreakable, or does it need to be really lightweight? You know, are you going to have to be able to transport it, or are you only going to wear it to conventions that you can drive to? Like, you have to consider all of these things, and then go on Google and look up the different ways that people have made horns and headdresses before, and find the way that fits your purpose the most. And so to start out, like, there are many very affordable ways to try things. You know, you can get the pink insulation foam at Home Depot, and you can just literally carve it out and then use sandpaper to sand it down smooth. And you know, and then you can actually look up ways to how do you say, seal it. So there's like many different ways, from Mod Podge to paper clay to resin to, you know, Warbler, whatever. And so it's like, instead of being like, this is how you make props, my suggestion for you is to go and do your own research and practice your Google foo, you know, and just like enjoy that process. All right, somebody over here. Yes, you with the horns.
I had a question about, like, yeah, you're right about how everything is basically the age of DIY projects. Anybody can find anything online, but a lot of people would love to try. It's like I'm not exposed to them, like metalworking, woodworking, molds, and cast making. And like, it's so common now, but like during your time, I was curious, like, how did you teach yourself how to sew and do these things? Like, what was your, I know a lot of people might ask you, how were you educated in sewing, or something like that?
Oh my gosh, yes, that's a great question, and trust me, I'm very jealous of all the resources available now, and it's like, it's a joy to see cosplayers who've only been doing this for like, you know, a year or so make absolutely spectacular outfits, because they are really dedicated, and they are going out there to do those research and to you know, take advantage of what's out there. For me, it was a series of failures over and over again. It was a lot of, you know, walking blindly through Home Depot and Joann's and Hancock and other fabric stores and just looking, just like, what can I use? What can I use? Oh, can I afford this? Oh, maybe. And because like you couldn't just email someone, or you couldn't just like go on a forum, because there were no forums available. You couldn't just ask, like, how do I make this? So you just kind of had to try something out that could possibly work in your head, and most likely it's failing. And then you like, I don't know, you hide your mistake with something on top, just slap something on top and hide it, and then you like make a mental note to do it a little better next time. So I feel like a lot of what I learned, a lot of what I'm educated on, is really through making really bad mistakes and being like, oh, this doesn't work. What does? Let's do the opposite of what I did. You know, and I did, you know, I did buy a sewing book at a thrift store, because I couldn't afford a, you know, a new book, but I got like a pretty old, one of those pretty old sewing books that's like, how do you make an apron and curtain and stuff. And so I did read through it, and, you know, at least it has some terms in there. Or, you know, I would like read through the pattern and, you know, be like, what does it mean, press your seam open? Like, you're like, press your seam open. And then you're like, iron? And so then you're like, oh, okay, so you have to iron your seam so that it's flat, because you made a costume where you didn't iron your seam, and your seam is all like this. So that's really what it is, you know. Sure.
I mean, it's really amazing that you're all self-taught, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. But I think it's a lot of like, you know, over the years, you know, someone would discover a technique and they would share it. And because I had a thirst for learning, I would really like, I would just like kind of stalk things online and be like, so how did they make this? How did they make this? And it wasn't that I emailed people and be like, tell me step by step how you made this. I would just like look at their costume, or look at the write-up that they did, or I would kind of like look at, you know, what it is that they did, if they talked about it, or answered in a comment to someone else how they did it, and I would sort of like silently find out the information. So, internet stalking, the secret to cosplay.
So
That's pretty, no, don't record that, cut that out. Oh, God.
So it's one thing to be very hardworking to get that skill. I noticed it's another thing to be physically attracted to the social media. It's the social world basically. You have to have that image. But you can't just have those two things to get acknowledged for, like you have. So what was your big break? What made people notice you and, I guess, get your own TV show?
I didn't have a big break. I took this, I said this on Friday, I took the stupidest, lowest route to get to where I am. I took 15 years to be here, sitting in front of you. So it's like if somebody tells me, it's like, I started this, I want to cosplay for a living, and I started 4 months ago. How do I get to where you are? I'm like, don't ask me. You're gonna wait 15 years if you ask me how I did this, So, I have friends who are like photographers or whatever, they're artists, and they're impatient. They're just like, I want to do this. How can I get there? How can I get noticed? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know how I got noticed. It just gradually happened over many years. I did this for over a decade before, I could viably make a living from it. This was not what I set out to do. And I feel like the most passionate artists, artists with the most longevity, they're not doing it for that end game. They're doing it because they're almost like slaves to the craft. I feel like I'm a slave to my craft. There's nothing that I can do in life besides this. So it's like, it's not my goal to be here to, make money off prints or whatever. That was not even possible when I started. But, I'm moving along with cosplay as a changing into an industry. As for how I got my own TV show, honestly, it was just after several years. I think I remember it was like in 2010, I started getting more and more emails. And not just me, other cosplayers too, started getting emails from random people who were just like, so I have an idea of making a cosplay TV show. And I got about 15, 20 of those over the course of a year and a half, everybody wanting to make some sort of a cosplay TV show. And that is not, because of me, it's just because of cosplay has become more well-known, and, somebody had the idea of I want to capitalize on it and make money off of it, so I want to make a TV show about it. And, it's like, it just happened. There was no big break. For other cosplayers, there are big breaks, but for me, there was never. It's just, I don't know. I'm sorry, I can't answer.
No. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. I mean, it's good to know that sometimes your heroes are humble.
Aw, you're sweet. Thank you. For me, I'm doing the same thing I've always done in 15 years. I've not changed the way I make costumes. I've not changed the way that I feel about cosplay. This is literally something that as long as I can keep doing this, and for as long as I live, then I'm happy. So I don't mind the hard work, because it's a lot of sleepless nights. Yes, sir, you had your hand up quite a long time.
This is more just general information for people. I know people don't have access to a lot of the tools and things like that. There's things called tech shop, hacker spaces, where you pay like a $30 monthly membership fee, and they've got 3 or 4 here in Dallas. They got a bunch down in Austin, Houston, all around these surrounding areas. So you don't have a $30,000 engraver sitting around in your house. So you can go to these shops, and this is where you can meet other people like Ms. Han that have crafted and honed their skills, and they can go, hey, you're not quite doing that right here, and they're very open, very friendly in these spaces. So it's an option for people that don't want to commit a whole lot of money, but they still want to work with good quality stuff.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very, very important. I mean, they have laser cutters, some of them have 3D printers, and CNC machines, and so it's a lot of amazing tools. So yeah, search for it. It's awesome. Oh my gosh, lots of questions. Let's see. I think I saw your hand up. Homestuck girl. Yes.
What would you recommend for metal armor to make it?
The thing with metal armor is some people want to actually make armor out of metal, and it's an art form in itself. It's a skill. It is like it's a craft in itself. And you know, I know people that are very good at it, and that's literally what they devote most of their lives to. But for anyone who just wants to make armor that looks metal, there is no reason that you have to make it out of metal. Like, you can absolutely use painting techniques to make something look metal. You can use sealing techniques, and you can also use materials that are cheaper than metal, easier to work with. And you know, again, like I said before, with prop making, you just got to go out there and do your research, because it's like there's so much out there. So. Oh my gosh, let's come on this side. Oh my gosh, you really want your friend? Okay, you all want your friend to answer. Okay, sure, go ahead, go ahead. They're all pointing. It's okay, hon. You're okay.
She wants to know what your most complicated cosplay was.
Okay, all right. My most complicated costume. Oh my gosh, I feel like as my skills develop, and you know, as anybody's skill develop, the complicated costumes sort of develop with it. So costumes that gave me a lot of trouble, I'll say, the ones that, you know, where I think back and I was like, dang, that was like a battle. They're, you know, Carmilla from Vampire Hunter D, of course. I felt like that was definitely a milestone for myself to, you know, make the costume that I have admired, like from the movie that I loved for, I think it was 9 years. It came out in 2000. I made the costume in 2009. So it was like 9 years of, that's an amazing costume. I wish I could make that. And then just, all right, now I think I'm ready to tackle it. Batgirl actually was quite complicated because of all the materials required, the different materials, and making sure that they all worked with each other. And because it was a lot of casting, and casting of resin as well as urethane rubber, so you know, they react differently. And then wearing like really, you know, making a suit underneath that would still go with all of the armor pieces. That was definitely interesting. My Banshee Queen, that was just kind of like, I had like basically 2 weeks to make that thing, and that was, you know, just, I'm not happy with it. Like, so that's basically like that was a very difficult costume because I didn't have enough time to do what I wanted. So in the future, I actually want to improve upon that. But that's a great thing about cosplays. You can always revisit your costume and make it better. So if it doesn't work out the first time, make version 2. All right, let's come over here again. Is it Brian? Fashion designer Brian? Yes, I did.
Okay, I've been doing it for like 3.5 years now. I've never done any props. It's all been fashion design and stuff, so all my skills in sewing. But I'm noticing a lot of the costume contests, it's all people who did armor and war blood and all this stuff. So how, besides doing things like on Granada Spada scale, how does a seamstress get noticed by just doing sewing instead of just props?
Wow, that's a great question, because actually I spoke to a contestant, or a couple of contestants from the A Kon costume contest last night, and they said that the judging as well as the results seem to favor sewing than armor. And so I really think it really depends on the contest. It depends on the environment. Because yes, armor costumes can look really flashy and can look really impressive and attention-grabbing, but I think that for me, that's never, you know, for me it's all about the refinement of a costume, and to be able to, like, what does it look like up close, and how does it flow, and does it, you know, does it suit the character and such. And so I think it really depends on what event you're at, what area you're at, and what kind of convention you're at. Like in Germany, it's actually, there's like cosplay sort of is in two, or was for a long time, was sort of in two different fractions. So they're like, it was very, very craftsman, like very sewing driven, And there were contests that really favored sewing, and you know, big contests where like the grand prize was a trip to Japan and stuff. Then sort of like Kamui Cosplay, for example, came in and started making Warbler armor and sort of educated people in the sense that they can also make armor. So now you see a lot of armor costumes in Europe as well. But you know, when it comes to contests, I think you have to find the contest to, or you have to find the right people to, I guess, to appreciate your costume. And it helps if you can be well-rounded enough, if you can actually learn some skills to make props, so you can have both. And I think that's for me, like, it was never like, I have to learn all of these skills to get noticed. It was always like, I have to learn all of these skills so I can make the costumes I want to make and not be limited. You know, I don't want to be limited to only making sewing costumes. So it's like, it's my own drive and my own creativity that gets me to want to learn how to make props, how to make armor, and as well as keep honing my sewing skills. And so if you want to do cosplay more seriously, if you want to do more commissions and, you know, make a business out of it, it's about learning skills, honing it, you know, being able to be more well-rounded in general as a craftsman. So, and I mean, just one last note, when I judge a contest, it is never about what the flashiest costume entails. Like, I would much rather see a costume that is simpler but well-made than a costume that looks great on stage but up close has a lot of, you know, a lot of like issues, or looks rushed or something. And it's just, maybe, you know, but each contest is judged differently. But that's just my own private, personal opinion about judging. I see a hand in the back. White sleeve? I know.
Choose which costume to make.
How do I choose which costume to make? Wow, that's, I can talk about that for the rest of the panel. No. Just real quick, I guess, it started off just whatever character that I loved, that I absolutely just like, I need to be her, as well as what do I think I can make. So it's like, at the beginning it was like, I think I can make a dress. So I think I can make this. But it was like, I don't think I can make a Gundam. So I'm not going to make that. So as time continues and as I learned more skills, sort of it's like expanded my range of what characters I could cosplay as. And so these days, a lot of times I'm attracted to the design itself. And I think even if you, for example, are not 100% completely familiar with the character and you don't know everything and you haven't like finished the entire series 3 times and know every line of the character, I think if you feel an attraction to a character, if you feel some sort of a connection with it, it's actually, I personally think for me it's okay to cosplay the character because it actually sort of in a way gets me to get to know the character more. So like through making a costume of someone that I find the design really interesting in, it makes me interested in who they are and their history and their personality and their story, and it sort of like creates almost like a lifelong bond with the character. Like the characters I've cosplayed, I sort of have a special place in my heart to, and I collect, things like collect figures and merchandise of them, and I feel like I identify with them. And so I think that's really what it is. It's like, do you feel a connection to a character? And that's what it's all about for me. All right, so let's come over here again. I see, yes, Twilight Sparkle. You've had your hand up for a while.
What was the first costume you ever made?
Oh my god. The first costume I ever made from scratch, because I actually, when I still lived in Germany, and I didn't know what cosplay was, I did go to a book fair and I did make half of a costume, kind of like half-assedly dressed up, but I didn't know what cosplay was, so to me that doesn't count. So my first costume that I made from scratch was at Anime Expo 99, and I dressed up as Kurama from Yu Hakusho, so I cosplayed because Kurama was my favorite. And so I made the Chinese, like the robe that he wears, and I made the pants underneath and made a sash. And I did not have a wig, so I just had black hair with it. So it was like completely unrecognizable as Kurama, but it was my first sewing experience, and it left sort of an impression on me. So I still have it, actually. I think I want to bring it like to a con or make a video or something and just show like my first costume, how really very badly put together it was. Yeah, that was a long time ago. Okay, I'm just gonna keep going back and forth on both sides. All right, let's. All right. Oh, someone go from the side. Yes, ma'am.
Would you be interested in making Pokemon costumes?
Would I be interested in making Pokemon costumes? I did see like the some of the cute designs that Cowslip did. Yes, they're really cute. The Jijinkas. I don't know. I think Pokemon costumes are the most fun in a group. So if I can find people to do it in a group, then maybe. Never say never. That might happen. I'm gonna come back over here. Let's see. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, so you're really famous in the cosplay community, and I've seen some people say really hurtful or sexual things on your Facebook page. How do you deal with all the mean stuff?
Aw. How do I deal with all the mean stuff? It doesn't bother me anymore. Like, it's really funny, but like I feel like my friends get more upset for me. They're just like, I can't believe they said that, and I'm just like, yeah, whatever. It's like you can only get upset over things for so long, and these days, like, what the comments that any rude or any abrasive or sexual comments, they really don't bother me. Like, half the time I don't delete them even, because I'm just like, yeah, whatever, I don't have time to even, it's like I don't care. The comments that do bother me are, and like, oh, maybe I shouldn't say that. Like, what does really bother me? Maybe I shouldn't tell you guys, in case somebody finds out and like specifically goes out to bother me. But what I try to set straight is when someone, when someone perceives me as different than who I am because of what other people have I guess, okay, hold on. What I say is, you know how when you are in the public eye, or when someone is in the public eye, it's like people put them on a pedestal. So there are people who basically, decide that that person needs to be seen on a different level. But that doesn't mean that that person sees themselves on a different level. So it's like, I don't see myself as being on that pedestal, but because I keep getting put on the pedestal, and because Heroes of Cosplay keeps saying I'm the queen of cosplay, and I'm just like, God damn it, And then so of course people think that I think I'm the queen of cosplay. It's like other people put you in a position, and so then the general public thinks, oh, then she must think she's in that position. So then they're like, well, if she thinks she's in that position, then she must feel that way. She must think this. And that is what I try to set straight, because I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know what I really am like. You don't know what I really feel. And you're putting words in my mouth, and you're telling people what you believe I am, or what you believe I think, and that's not right. But honestly, in general, I don't really respond to, trolling comments or negative comments, because it's all about positivity for me. And there was there was a point a few years ago where, I think there were a couple times where I was like, I got upset over something, and then I posted something, and then I've always regretted it. And so the lesson I learned is just don't let it bother you. Don't really respond. Think of it as the comments being made, they're not really about you. They're really a reflection of the person making the comments and how they feel. So if it's not about you, then you can go on with your life. And so that's kind of how I deal with all the negativity. Sorry, that was really serious. All right. Yes, Edward Elric.
Okay, for somebody who's never done a contest before, and it's their first time, what kind of advice would you tell them or give them?
Oh, great question. Thank you so much for asking. First of all, you got to find out what kind of contest it is. And I would be very, very anal, very, very annoying. Email the people and really like find out all the rules, like when do you sign up, where do you go, is there prejudging, is there craftsmanship judging, you know, how are you allowed to do a skit, are you allowed to do a walk-on, you know, find out all of that information. That's the first thing. Before you ever enter a contest, find out everything you can possibly about it and plan ahead, because it's going to be pandemonium. Like, costume contests are crazy, you know, and not to say that there are not well-organized ones, but so much can go wrong. So many factors go into a costume contest, and it is just, in general, a logistically difficult thing to deal with, having all of these, like, 100 people all in different costumes, you know, and so if you are prepared, then it makes your life easier, and you can sort of counter those problems that arise. And once you find out, like, for example, if there is craftsmanship judging, then you know that you have to, you know, I would suggest you basically bring reference pictures of the character, because the judges don't always know what exactly you're dressed up as, so show them what it is, and also bring in-progress pictures so that they can see you made the costume and they can sort of understand more how you made it. And my advice for being on stage is to, whether you do a walk-on or a skit, keep it short and keep it really sweet. Like, make it so that the audience and the judges want to see more of you. And it's better to do a shorter performance than to, you know, try to fill up the time limit. Like, if they say you're allowed to be on stage for a minute, and you try to fill up the whole minute with things, you know, people have horribly short attention spans at conventions. Like, after literally 15 seconds, they're just like, okay. So it's like, make an impact, come on stage, do your thing, be confident, and then leave and make them go, but I wanted to see more. You know? And that's what I would suggest. 10? Awesome. All right, so let's take a few more questions. Let's see. Yes, is it Pinkie Pie?
Wigs. Do you make your own? Would you prefer human hair, synthetics? And if synthetic, would you dye it with red or what?
Okay, wigs, great question, great topic. In general, I feel like there's so many wigs available these days that are great synthetic wigs that are heat resistant, so you can style them, that you don't necessarily have to go with human hair wigs, which are more expensive. However, if someone wants to do, you know, a human hair wig, go for it. You know, that's completely up to them. I myself, I use a lot of wigs that, and I alter them. I've only once made a wig from scratch, and that was for Mutio from Blue Submarine 6, because it was like part of the headpiece. And I couldn't find a gray wig back in 2000. That was actually worn at A Kon here in like year 2000, or no, 2001. But anyway, I really like Purple Plum. They're a great company. Arta Wigs, Epic Cosplay, Gothic Lolita Wigs. They're all fantastic companies that sort of cater to cosplayers. And I have actually recently dyed a wig, and I used the FD ink and alcohol method, which you can look up tutorials for. You know, like, I knew how to do it, but I still looked up a tutorial just to sort of remind myself, like, is it 90% alcohol that I use or 70%, and how much should I put in there? And so all you do is just, you know, find the way that works the best for you. And I've sewn like wefts into wigs before. I've done, you know, custom wigs where I basically cut up a second wig and made hair pieces, or, you know, all kinds of bizarre shapes to then sew onto my wig. And it's just, I personally love working with wigs. I think it's fun. I think it's really creative. I think it's neat to be able to do something with hair, you know, and actually make cool shapes with it. And so that's what I would suggest. All right. Couple more questions. Yes, sir. You've had your hand up for a long time.
Okay, when you want to put your cosplay photos or even just do your own walk-on on the internet, what websites would you recommend and which ones would you not recommend?
Okay, yeah, great question. Of course, we all know Facebook. Anyone can make a fan page, and to an extent, Facebook is a good way to sort of, do social media and keep up with people and share your work. However, Facebook has the downfall that then it becomes, inevitably a race for likes, or, it just, I don't know. I just think Facebook is like, it does what it needs to do, but it was important for me to have my own website to show my portfolio. And so that's ideally what I would recommend if you, especially if you want to be a business, if you want to do cosplay more seriously, if you want to do commissions, or if you offer some sort of products and you want to make, a cosplay-based company, you have to have a website. And it's worth it to invest in a good website because Facebook, in the end, a page doesn't belong to you. It belongs to Facebook. They have the right at any time to delete your page. So even if you've garnered however many fans and whatever over the years, like you do something that Facebook doesn't like, or they change their policy and all of a sudden, they limit what you can do, or now the reach issue, of course, is like they basically you only reach 5% of the people that you've paid or you've worked really hard to have as followers. You can't rely on it. So making your own webpage is the best way to go. But if you don't want to make your own page and you just want to share your work online, I would suggest AC Paradise. acparadise.com is a great community page made for cosplayers by cosplayers, and you can post photos, you can post your videos, and you can tell people what conventions you're going to go to. You can tag photographers that have taken photos of you. Another new website that I really like is called cospix.net, so cospix.net, and they are really shaping up to be the next big cosplay community page. They're very easy to navigate, and it's really they have all of these features that are going to come into play that will make it so easy for cosplayers to post their work and share and even connect with each other. So those are the two I would recommend. A couple last questions. Sir, all the way in the back, Superman shirt. The one costume that clicked in my head that I want to do this for a living or for just a cosplay, it clicked in my head before I ever made a costume. It clicked in my head when I saw it, okay, I'll tell you what moment it was. I saw a Rurouni Kenshin group, and they had maybe 4 or 5, I think maybe 6 of the characters, and to me, they looked like they jumped out of the manga, and it was just I just felt this intensity. I was like, this is what I want to do. Yeah, it was just ah! So that was I need to make a costume. Wow, I know I'm so cheap. All right. One last question. All right. I don't know. I'm just gonna 1, 2, 3, 4. You, Miku, or yeah.
I was gonna ask one thing you don't
somebody
see a lot
wanted
of.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Maybe both. Maybe we squeeze both in. Come on, let's try to squeeze both.
The one thing that you don't see on the tutorials and all is on the sewing aspect of it. When there isn't a pattern, which let's face it, most of us don't have patterns for our costumes, what do you find is the best way to create the look that you're going for?
You can alter patterns heavily. You can, I have for, especially bodysuits, anything that is stretchy, you can basically do whatever you want, because stretchy fabric is very forgiving. So I've literally, made a bodysuit, just a regular bodysuit before, and then I drew on it whatever lines I needed, and then cut it up and use that as the pattern, for the costume. And you can, I combine a lot of patterns. So, I literally take, the top section from one pattern, and then I literally I glue it up, I tape another pattern to it for the bottom, or I draw it out, or like measure it and then drape it out, you know, how long it needs to be. It's a lot of math, I would say. Making patterns is a lot of math. You can also see if your local school, like college, has maybe a draping class or a pattern making class. And last of all, you can actually buy programs, computer programs that are pattern making programs. And so you can look those up. They're not always accurate, and most likely you have to alter them. So it's like, but you can literally generate a pattern, and you can use it as your mock-up and fit it to you after you like just stitch it together, like, you know, do what you need to do put darts in or do extra panels or whatever, and then cut that mock-up apart to use it as a pattern. There are ways. All right, Miku, do you want to try to squeeze in your question?
That was exactly my question.
What? No way! That's crazy. Okay, so is it over? That's it? Okay, all right. Well, that's it. Thank you guys so much for coming. I hope I answered a lot of questions. And I'll hang out a bit, and you know, if you want to chat some more, if you want to take pictures, I'm just gonna literally walk outside and we can do that. Okay?